we will investigate for a network that will assign IP addresses dynamically to various hosts that are connected to a router. So we will use the DHCP protocol to do so. Okay. A lot of you computers at home are set up that way. So is at work the same way. The way you can tell is you can go over to Control Panel, go the Network and Internet, and in here, View Network Status. And then you can go and change adapter settings if needs be. And then notice here, this is the active network. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to Properties for that one. And go to TCP/IP version 4 and go to its properties. And as you can see, my IP address is obtained dynamically or automatically. Okay? So if I did an IP config at the prompt, I should be able to see what IP address is assigned to me. We're going to do a similar exercise, but this time we're going to be in charge of implementing this infrastructure that supports a DHCP. So let me get to a router, and I'll pick this router here, which has 2 gigaports, right? So a 1941 Cisco router. This is what it looks like. Let me zoom in so you could see. And it's got 2 gigaports right here that you could utilize, one for each network, okay? So one side per network, or one interface per network, okay? So let me set up my network now. So I'm going to have a switch here. A 2950 will do just fine for this purpose. Maybe a couple computers. These will be your hosts that will be set up dynamically. So I'm going to go to each one of these computers, go to the configuration, and go to DHCP. So that way they will dynamically obtain their addresses. Okay. I'm not going to go below here. We're not doing IPv6 for now. Okay. So I'm going to go over here, do the same thing, configure, and go to DHCP. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and connect our computers. Now your computer is a layer 3. So I'm going to go with a straight through from this fast Ethernet, which is to a switch, which is a layer 2 device. And I'm going to tell it to go to fast Ethernet 02. I'm going to leave 01 to go to the router. So I'm doing this manually here. I'm going to go from here, fast Ethernet 0 to fast Ethernet 3 on the switch. Then I'm going to take a straight through again because my switch is a layer 2 device, and go to my router, which is a layer 3 device. And I'm going to go to G00 right there. Perfect. Now, my computers are configured. They're done. The switch, there isn't much you want to do here unless we're doing some VLANs. We're not, so we're good. So we're all under VLAN 1, by the way. Okay, that will be the default VLAN for all of them. VLAN stands for virtual LAN, right? So now let's go to the CLI for the router. And again, CLI is your what? Command line interface. So this is where we're going to enter the configuration for this router. One of the things I want to configure, so let me just put it right here, is this port right here. So let me just for a second write down my strategy. What do I want? I want an address for this whole network. I want 192.168, so basically a class C address. .10.0 with a /24 means I'm using only a one subnet with this mask. By the way, this mask is 255.255.255.0. Okay, so just write it down here. Mask is, just in case you forget, this is a 255.255.255.0. Okay, now if it was a /25, then it will be a .128 instead of a .0. Okay, that's another lesson. So perfect. So what do you want this router's interface to be? Now that one will be a static IP address, and that one I'm gonna need it to be 192.168.10.1. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm giving typically the first address or valid host address within that block, typically it's your default gateway. Default gateway is the interface from which you can, if you have a packet that doesn't belong in that broadcast domain, just forward it onto that port, okay? So that means these computers here, when I'm done with DHCP, they should be within the same domain for this network. So maybe a .2, .3, right? That would be automatically assigned. So again, this is a /24. All right, so let me hit escape. Now let's go to the router. And let me make this a little bigger here. And I'm going to say no for this part because I want to enter everything manually myself. So enable, EN short for enable at the prompt. Okay. Now is a good time to enter into configuration mode. So configure terminal. So conft is a short word for that, right? So now I'm here. I can actually set up the interface, which is G00. Okay, and I could do this. Int G0/0. Now notice your prompt changes. So now give it the actual address that I decided to do for that interface. Okay, so that would be IP address 192.168.10.1. Give it the mask 255.255.255.0. And then say no shot. And notice it's going to turn green. Perfect. Excellent. That doesn't mean it's working yet. The other devices do not have an IP address within that same domain yet. Okay? So now what we want to do is set up DHCP. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to exclude this particular IP address that we assigned to G00 since it's a static IP address. We don't want that to change. We want that to remain our default gateway. So we'll start with that. So before I do anything, let me hit exit and be in this mode. Okay. Now I'm ready to do IP DHCP exclude. Now it's a long term, so I'm going to hit the tab key to show you what excluded address, right? So I hit the tab key. It completed the command for me. Okay. So which one? 192.168.10.1. Now, if you have other addresses you want to exclude, let's say you have a domain name server somewhere, a DNS server, right? Or something else that, you know, like a TFTP server that has a static IP address, you can include them here so they're not altered. But we're going to leave it alone. That's the only thing I have for this scenario. Okay, good. Next, you're going to give this DHCP a pool name. So it is a pool, just like it's a domain. It's a world, right? So you're going to give it a name. We're going to call it test network. Okay, so again, IP DHCP pool, and then give it a name. Test network. There you go. Okay, now we're getting into the internal configuration for that pool. That is, we can assign a network to that pool, to that particular pool. So we'll map it to this network. Well, which network? Well, type the network keyword and then give it 192.168.10.0. That is your internal network where you want to deploy this dynamic addressing scheme. Okay, so 192.168.10.0. Okay, if it is a network, typically you want to enter also what kind of mask are you using, and this is what we're doing. Okay, now you're going to tell it who the default router is. So default, I believe it's got a hyphen, so yeah, default router. 192.168.10.1. 192.10.1 on that network. Okay? And then hit enter. Now let's save this configuration. So let me exit here, and then we could do copy, run, start. So we're copying the running configuration onto the start configuration. Okay, so it's going to ask me if that's what you want to do. I'm going to say yes by just typing enter. Good, we are done for this simple configuration. Now there's more if you needed to do more things like how long do you want to lease these addresses and so on. So there is a lease command that you can include. But right now, I just want to test it, make sure everything works. So I can go to any of these computers and notice it picked up a default gateway. And I can go to its desktop and say ipconfig, show me what address did I pick up. And notice I have 192.168.10.3 that was assigned to me as a host with the default gateway of 192.168.10.1.